Welcome to Turning Point. I'm Jessica Alfrey.
And I'm Becky Alfrey. Power couple Eddie Foulger and Jasmine Parker share turning points of their families and how their paths crossed. Ben Stein tells the story of how he met a real-life goddess.
And later in the show, Dr. Frederick explains why he chose to be a doctor. The world is turning, and there's a point to everything that happens. Stemming from humble roots and working in the fields in Mexico as a young child, Hilda Zamora has now single-handedly raised the bar for the legal profession with integrity and her belief in justice for all.
Hilda, tell us about the youngest turning point that you can recall.
Of course, I would love to. I come from very humble beginnings. I was born in La Piedad, Michoacan, Mexico, to a wonderful mother. We're a big family. It's 6 of us. I have 3 brothers, 2 sisters. We were raised very humble, and we were very limited in a lot of financial things, of course. But one of the things that I can really remember is the values that my mother taught me. How to be honest, how to be sincere, how to be a hard worker, and overall, to have a vision for a future as to what you wanted to become.
So you worked in fields, you told me before.
I did.
What did you do in the fields?
I did. At the age of 6, my mother, because of the financial circumstances they were living in Mexico, we were living way below poverty level. And my mom felt that it was time for us to make a change, to try to continue moving forward. So she decided to bring the 2 youngest of us to the United States, and we came here as migrant workers.
Okay.
Back in the 80s, we're talking early 80s, we were working in the fields with my mother. I was probably 6, my brother was probably 10 at the time, 9 or 10, and we're working seasonal jobs, anything from Washington picking apples.
Okay,
to
so
Oregon.
in the United States you were working in fields.
In the United States, correct.
Okay.
In Oregon, we will pick cherries, and then in Live Oak, near Sacramento area, we will pick anything plums, peaches, almond, anything possible, and we'll always help my mom. And it was hard work, it was hard labor. I remember waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning to be in the fields by 6, and I remember we would leave the fields when it was sunset around 6, 6:30, so it was from sunrise to sunset.
And your mother was right there next to you working?
My mother was always there and was always being supportive and was always pushing us. But most importantly, I remember my mom always telling us and making sure that the situation that we're currently living or experiencing was just temporarily.
Interesting.
And I always thought of that. I knew that we were just paving our path to climbing the mountain and reach success.
Okay.
And even
so
though
she gave you hope.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
And she encouraged. It's pretty ironic because even though she has a 3rd grade education in Mexico, she always encouraged education. And she knew that that was the only way that we could change our lives, through education. And she would always tell us that education was powerful because regardless of what your financial situation might have been or what you were going through or experiencing, society could never take away your education. And that's
so what made the family support you more than the others in getting an education?
Well,
because you were the youngest.
I was the youngest one. The rest of my brothers and sisters, they stayed in Mexico because we couldn't all come at the same time. Okay. Once we became legalized in the United States, it was little by little they were able to bring the rest of the other siblings over to the United States. But everybody else was older. Everybody else was more than 15 or 18 years old. Some of them were in their 20s. So it was
harder to go back to school.
Yes, and it was easier for them to just work and help provide my mother. My mother for a long time was a single mother. So she had to provide for 6 of us. So I think on the rest of my brothers and siblings, we all felt some type of responsibility to be able to help my mother and be able to help each other out. We grew very, very, very united, despite, again, having a lot of other needs financially. We grew very united. And they knew that perhaps their time had already elapsed to them going to school. They wanted to make sure that that didn't happen to me, and they wanted to make sure that I was at least the only one that would be able to become a professional or do something in life.
So your first school experience was very funny, but very humbling when you told it to me.
I began school in the United States at the age of 9, which would put me at a 3rd grade level. At the 3rd grade, I went into Oregon. That's where my mother was working. I went to Oregon State, and that's a middle school. I did not know how to read or write in either language. I did not know my ABCs. I did not know my numbers. I didn't know anything. I would sit there, I would take the bus, go to the classroom, and sit there. I don't recall ever talking to the teacher or the teacher ever coming to me and asking me if I needed anything. So my first week went by, I remember very vividly, and it was probably like a Thursday. I come back home to little cabins where my mother worked, and that's where we lived. And I went back, and my mom was infuriated. She felt betrayed. She felt I had lied to her, and that was not something that she had taught me. And she started to inquire as to why was it that I was missing school. I was puzzled. I'm like, Mom, you see, I take the bus, I come back, and I go to school. I was puzzled as to what she was referring to. Well, apparently she had received a phone call from the middle school that I had missed the entire week, and they were going to remove me from my classroom. In that very instant, my mom asked for a ride, drove me back to the school to figure this out. Well, it comes out that I was in school.
Smart mom. Really?
Amazing. And the teacher was able to identify me. Oh yeah, she's
there every day.
She's there every day. But what was going on, it was a language barrier. I didn't know my name in English was Hilda. Normally my name in Spanish, the H is silent. So you just say Hilda.
Hilda. So Hilda was it was
different.
like you didn't know who they were talking about.
Have you ever met a goddess? Ben Stein has. He tells the story of how he met his wife, and sorry guys, this saint is taken.
One of the more important turning points is when somebody meets the love of their life. Can you tell us when you met your wife? And
it's easy to remember. I met her at a July 4th, 1966 party, a black tie junior foreign service officers ball at the on the top floor of the State Department in Washington, D.C., watching the fireworks. I was with a girl I dated all through my senior year in college, rather, a wonderful, wonderful woman. And then I ran into this woman who was to become my life's companion. She was out on a date with a man she didn't know that well, but whom I knew a little tiny bit. And I fell in love with her at first sight. I could read her mind. When I asked her where she was from,
really,
in my brain, the word Idabel came to me, and she was from a small town in Oklahoma called Idabel, Oklahoma. And I read that in her mind before she even said it.
That's incredible.
Yes, I could read her mind, and I still can read her mind, and we can read each other's minds. It's amazing.
Do you ever do that with have you done that with anyone else?
Yeah, I can do it with a lot of people.
Oh gosh. Okay, I have a clear head right now, so.
Okay.
Okay. So you also said something so sweet and beautiful about her. I'd love you to tell.
She's a saint. She's a living, breathing goddess. She is, as far as I am concerned.
What makes her a saint?
Forgiveness, kindness, generosity of spirit, no malice, no anger. I mean, if I were to choose a person who I think embodies what it means to be a living God, it would be my wife. A living, loving God, it would be my wife. I've never met anyone like her ever in my life. She is the absolutely number one, finest, highest quality human being I've ever met in my life. No one else is even close.
Is she your best friend?
She's everything to me. She's everything. She's everything.
I really appreciate you sharing that, because very few men, I don't think I've ever heard another man actually speak that highly of his wife.
Well, I don't think any other man has ever met a woman as wonderful as my wife. I mean, my wife is beautiful inside and out. She's absolutely as close to a flawless human being as there could be.
Wow, that's great, and I think that we all should be inspired to. Do you think that there is a certain soulmate sort of connection if a person waits for it?
I really think Alex is a divinity. I mean, I really think if you're a Christian, you believe that God is, that Jesus is part of God, and I think Alex is part of God. I mean, I really think she is
That's beautiful.
Such a divine person that she is part of God. She is just beyond any other human being I've ever experienced.
I think that was wonderful, and I so thank you for sharing that story.
My pleasure.
Jasmine Parker shares turning points of how she found the love of her life and how she started a new, healthier, and happier way of living.
My ex-husband was in the military, and something happened within the military and him, and he lost his job. And then I had to pick up the pieces again, and I went on to dancing, pole dancing. And then I started doing that for a while because I needed to pay all the house
And it paid better than Del Taco.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
at the time.
And a lot of the girls probably end up doing that for the very same reason. The money is good.
Yes, I agree with that. Most women who are struggling really hard and are younger or, you know, feel like they need more and more because they're going to fall off, and they switch down to going to dancing. So
That's what got you there.
that's what got me there,
And then something got you out.
of course.
And that's what we want to hear about.
I remember being at work, and I wasn't really, I don't know, there's a time in your life where you feel like it's just not, you're just not up to the job anymore. You're just kind of like, oh, I'm here.
You'd had enough.
Yeah. I was reaching my limit already. You know, I always told myself, I'm not going to do this for longer than this. You know, probably most girls say that in there. I'm only doing this for a short period of time so I can keep up or catch up with this. And then
Now,
I'm
one
done.
of the nice things you told me, Jazz, and I wanted the audience to know this, you didn't get into the drug scene. You're pretty straight girl.
No, I've
doing
never.
this. And that's cool though, because everybody, you know, we have a kind of a judgmental society, and just because you're doing something for money doesn't mean
that
you
you're
do
doing
all of the other
all
things
of the
that go with that
above.
lifestyle. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's important for people to know. Yeah.
Yeah. Typically, that's what everyone thinks. They're doing all of the above.
That's why I asked, because I knew that you did not.
No.
So you were just you're burned out. You were your mind was open to something else.
Yeah, I needed a change. I needed a big change before I just lost myself, you know. And I met my boyfriend, Eddie Foulger, there one night. And after that night, we just kind of been inseparable, hanging out all the time and, you know, sending each other positive vibes and, you know.
Nice.
And basically, it was to a point where not only does he remind me that I don't need to be there, but I kept reminding myself, I know I don't need to be there, you know. And I think within a couple of months, you know, I just
Let it go.
stopped. Yeah.
So he has this professional training business, and he saw someone that would be great. But what I love about your story is he never asked you to do it or get into competitions at all.
No, you know what's funny? No, he's never asked me about it, but
He let you see his work, though.
yeah. He kind of like stirred me towards it, like, oh, you want to come in and work
Watch
out?
and yeah.
Oh, you want to go to the show with me? Oh, you know.
But he never
He saw
said
the
you should do
potential.
this. He never told you what
No,
to
no,
do.
he
Well, that's
said-
what I really like.
He's not like that.
Because that's bringing out the best in another person, which is what we all should be doing. And we all seem to have trouble with that. So I like that part of your story. So you came and you observed, and then one day,
One day, I just went all for it. I just decided I was gonna
try it.
turn my life over and start doing fitness and bikini competitions. Because if you really think about it, you know, not comparing the two, because there's absolutely no comparison besides the bikini on stage.
Right.
That's it, you know. But I like the whole glamour and, you know, obviously the trophies and stuff.
Right. But I mean, you went straight to the top in the beginning. He has quite the reputation. I realize he's done this in the past with other clients. But I watched you when you first started working out. So I knew you before you made that choice. And you were beautiful before, Jasmine. But I watched your body change. And it blows me away. And I know that it blows other people away. And of course, he had some really good genes he was starting out with you. But incredible, the dedication that you showed. And I watched you working out. And I mean, you just like went with it and you stuck with it. And it wasn't easy, was it?
No, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. I had to really get my mindset for it. So it took me some time to even, you know, agree to do a show.
Right.
And, you know, when I finally told Eddie, you know, I'm going to do a show, you know, at first he kind of gave me a look like, okay. Like, and I'm like, no, I'm going to do a show. I'm going to do it. He's like, okay, all right. Are you sure you're going to do it? I'm like, yes, I want to do it.
Because he knew that it was going to take a big, big commitment.
Yes.
And he wondered if you were up for that.
Yes. he knew I was up for it. He knew it was going to come soon. He knew that I had that aggression in me, that if I really want something, I really will try my hardest to get it.
Eddie Foulger of Foulger's Soldiers shares stories of his father and how your parents can't save you. You have to take responsibility and save yourself.
I was definitely at a dark time in my life when I remember my mom contacted me and said that my biological father was going to be coming into town and he wanted to see me. At the point in time, I was on meth all the time. That's how I lived my life.
Were you in your 20s?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was selling drugs at the time and so on and so forth. So obviously, when a situation such as that comes into play, you do everything you can to avoid it.
Sure.
I'm not interested in meeting my biological father at this point in time in my life. I have these other things going on. And so he came into town, and I remember I was asleep and my roommate knocked on my door and told me, "Your dad is at the door," and that's not something that has ever taken place.
Wow.
So I thought, that's weird. I walked into the living room and I saw him sitting on the couch, and he just said, "Take your time." Obviously, I looked like I needed some time. I was probably been asleep for about a day and a half and was just walking down the hallway. I see him there. Turned back around. I went back into the room, and I remember getting a wave of emotions over myself. Now, you're talking about a guy that's been on drugs.
Right.
All of a sudden feeling these emotions that he's never even felt before. I remember breaking into tears. I remember going into the bathroom, starting the shower. And, I think I probably crushed up some lines and packed a bowl and snorted some lines and smoked some meth.
Wow.
And took a shower and walked back down the hall. And, he said that he wanted to go and grab some lunch somewhere or something like that. So we did. He came into town. He wanted to take me on a hike for about 3 days, climbing a mountain.
He did. He wanted to take you camping.
He wanted to take me pretty much, and not camping, so I think we were just going to hike up a mountain or something like that. Yeah,
but he wanted to take you away for a while.
He wanted to take me away for a couple
days.
To
have a bonding experience.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen at that point in time in my life, no.
And where was he in his life? Had he done drugs, cleaned up? Which point of his life?
At that point in time, he had told me that he was very deep into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay.
So he was clean and sober.
Yeah, and he has been for over 20 years now at this point in time. So he did tell me that he had a similar past and he could relate with some of the things, and maybe not on the same level that I was at.
Did he apologize to you for not being there for you?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't recall. I don't think so.
Okay.
But I think that I did tell him that I wasn't upset with him and that I understood, and that things don't always work out between men and women, and my mom did move across the country, with me, so it was what it was. I remember after he left, I think I ended up in prison not too long after that, and he would write to me, and. I remember the letters being very like, you're being selfish and you're living like this and you're living like that, and you need to be like this for your mom, and you need to do like this for your, and I didn't want to hear it at the time, and I remember writing him a letter back saying, look, if you're gonna preach to me when you write your letters to me, you can just keep your letters,
right?
Okay. So he apologized, and he sort of backed off a bit, but. There was just never going to be that space that was never really going to be covered, because it just wasn't, I didn't have a need for it at that point in time. I was very messed up myself, so I wasn't looking for anything quality in my life.
But you said something real key. You needed to save yourself.
Correct.
You were the one that did.
I'm the one that needed to do it, yes. Yeah.
So, you're an example of that, and that is, it isn't the parent's responsibility.
No, it's
we don't, and that's just codependent behavior, and so it doesn't. That showed that whatever you go through with a parent, the ultimate it's the person themselves that makes a change in their life.
I really believe that there becomes a point in time in everybody's life, where you have to start taking responsibility for your own actions. You got to stop looking back, and honestly, I don't really care what happened to you. I do. I don't mean it in a cold way.
I understand.
But no matter what, you have to start taking responsibility for your own life.
Instead of blaming others.
Instead of blaming other people.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I like that. It's a good attitude, and I have to say, you're so positive. Is this your real nature?
I think so.
I actually believe it is, just from what I watched you and your interactions with others. That's what I see. And you know, it's interesting to me because I know you had a lot of negative and criticism from the lifestyle that you were having, but you did not ever, you didn't turn around and become a negative, critical person.
Yeah. Well, the man that adopted me, you know, that my
Yes.
mom's husband, Stan Foulger, you know, he had a lot of really good, you know, he was old school and he was a good guy, you know, and one of his things was attitude. You know, attitude is everything. You know, honesty
he
is the best
influenced
policy.
you.
Yeah, you know, so with those things, you know, I try to always keep my spirits up. I believe it's contagious as well. You know, if you have positive energy, then it's going to rub off on other people. And if you have negative energy, then it's going to rub off on other people. So.
Well, you're a great example.
You know, I mean, it's interesting. I have a little bit of a balance. Not that beating anybody up is the answer, but there's definitely a bit of a hard nose to what I do, and kind of a no BS approach at times. You know,
Right, but that's staying the course.
that's staying the course. You know, I like to
and
run
teaching discipline.
a tight ship, because you know what? In the end, people want that from you. That's
Exactly.
that's what they need. You know, and if you're getting ready for, you know, whatever it is in your life, whether it's a bikini show, or you know, you want to lose some weight for a wedding,
Right.
or you just want to feel better about yourself, you know, they're
Or you want to
depending,
age gracefully.
or you want to age gracefully. You know, they're depending on you to help them get what they want. Okay, and sometimes it's by changing what they do.
Plastic surgery isn't always cosmetic. Dr. Frederick Echo shares why he chose to be a plastic surgeon and how making a difference gives his life meaning.
There are a lot of women that after they've had children and they get a little older, they have some extra excess that in the tummy area, and they want to just feel perky and look younger. And tell us about the surgery that you do to help those women.
Well, what pregnancy does is it expands the abdominal wall, and sometimes it also disrupts the rectus muscles, which are the six-pack muscles everyone loves to have. And after pregnancy, some of the weight goes away, but some of it stays there. And so a tummy tuck can be done to improve the shape and appearance of the abdominal wall. What that involves is taking away the excess skin and fat that's accumulated from pregnancy and not gone away. But it also involves tightening the six-pack muscles, because what can happen is that the six-pack muscles move away from themselves, from the midline of the body. And so as part of it, a real tummy tuck is pulling those muscles back to where they're supposed to be, and that contributes to giving the abdomen in better shape and appearance.
Great. And also the breast augmentation, that is just kind of an option, but as you age, sometimes breasts do, in fact, need lifting, or if the woman feels like she would like to do that.
Yes, there are multiple reasons to place implants in the breast. Everyone thinks about the person who wants their breast to be bigger, but there are people who are born with problems that cause one breast to develop and one breast not to develop, no breast to develop. There are multiple conditions that we use breast implants for. Sometimes it's because a woman has had babies and the breasts have become deflated. Sometimes it's because they've had cancer and part of the breast had to be removed. And so there are multiple reasons why you would use an implant. But yes, we do place implants in breasts as well.
Okay. So also, let's go on to body reconstruction. You also do lipo, and you also work on arms, and so these types of surgeries are also often connected with bariatrics surgeries.
That's correct. Patients who have undergone massive weight loss. By massive weight loss, I mean anywhere between 80 to 200, 300 pound weight loss.
Wow.
What happens is when the person is bigger, as they get fatter, the skin has an ability to accommodate, and it expands and stretches. Well, when they lose weight, a lot of the fat goes away. However, the skin is left in a stretched and expanded state. And so these people tend to accumulate excessive amounts of hanging skin. And unfortunately, there's no other way to get rid of it but to cut it out. And so in these patients, there's often hanging skin of the abdomen, there's hanging skin of the arms, which can be as bad as looking like bat wings.
Sure. Oh,
And there can be hanging skin of the thighs, as bad as hanging over the knees.
wow.
And so all these areas usually need to be addressed.
And haven't they improved scar revision? I mean, aren't there products now that you're able to put on a scar and it fades much better than in the past? Isn't that another improvement?
Yes, that is an improvement. Some of these, well, as plastic surgeons, we try to hide our scars. We try to hide the incisions.
It's hard to hide a scar on an arm, I would think.
It's a little more difficult, and you know, in the plastic surgery community, we generally say the scars on the arms are the worst scars.
Well, so if somebody wants to get in shape and it's not hopeless, you can have bariatric surgery, and you can have all of the skin removed and start working out in the gym.
That's correct.
So what is your favorite part about being a doctor?
Helping people, helping patients. You know, there's nothing like watching a patient who's had a complex reconstruction on their leg walk again. There's nothing like watching a woman who shows up in my office after she's had a mastectomy, removal of her breast, with no makeup, feeling down, and after she's had a reconstruction, she's wearing Victoria's Secret bra and she's got lipstick on and makeup on. It's a total transformation, and for me, that's what makes my day.
It sounds like you're helping people make their own turning points.
Yes, I would like to think so.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching today's show. If you have a turning point you'd like to share, please call the number at the bottom of the screen.
In 2011, there was an earthquake in Japan that shortened the days on Earth by 1.8 microseconds.
So let's shake things up and enjoy every microsecond.
Have a wonderful week. May all your good times be plentiful, and remember, time is on your side.